There's nothing surprising about the presentation. The A02 ships in the same packaging as the A12 we had before and most other affordable Galaxies. Pull out the cardboard tray out of the sleeve, and you'll get the same bundle: the phone itself, a 15-watt adapter and a USB A2C cable. A simple case would have been nice, but every penny is important in this class, so we're not bothered by its absence. Much like the A12, the Galaxy A02s has a special back texture, more on that on the next page, where we take a look at its design and build quality. The Galaxy A02s has its own distinct rear panel finish, combining geometric shapes and textured surfaces. An array of implied rhombuses, each with a fine stripe texture in a different direction, make sure that the back cover never looks the same, depending on the angle you look at it from. The panel is made of plastic, of course, and it's an uneven style of construction. With no exposed frame, the rear flows over to the sides, top, and bottom. In principle, it is the same as the A12 in this respect. However, the A02s, thanks to the finer texture, feels a tiny bit posher. Additionally, since it has only 3 cameras, the A02's camera island has had enough space to host the LED flash. That wasn't the case on the A12 with its pseudo-quad-cam arrangement. What didn't leave us all that excited was the relatively mushy action of the buttons on the right. They have less of a defined click point than we'd like, both the power button and the volume rocker, with the volume rocker being ever so slightly better. It's not deal-breakingly bad, but it's not solid either. And, having seen the back and the power button, you probably already realize what's missing on the Galaxy A02s. There's no fingerprint sensor of any kind. The Galaxy A12 will give you that, plus a bit more positive button response, for a small price premium. Following the same component layout as the A12, the A02s has its card slot high up on the left side of the phone. It's the same triple slot, too. It will accept 2 nano SIMs and a microSD. That's all the more important on this handset, too, as it's not available with more than 64 GB of storage, and you're more likely to end up needing to use the expansion slot. The Galaxy A02s relies on USB-C for charging and data connection, making it the least expensive phone in the company's lineup, to use the now prevailing standard. The non-A02 and M02 are still on micro-USB, and we're happy that's not the case with the A02s. There are no surprises around the port either. A classic arrangement of a 3.5mm headphone jack, a mic and a loudspeaker is what you'll find in this neighborhood. The front of the phone has the Infinity V display covered with an undisclosed type of protective glass. The LCD is surrounded by a black frame that's thicker than on more expensive phones, but not out of place for a handset of the A02's stature. Even so, the thicker chin could be an eyesore if you're coming from a premium phone. On the other hand, some will say that the more sizable bottom bezel improves handling, and that will probably be true. Right above the selfie camera's swooshing V-shaped notch, there's the earpiece behind what looks like a metal mesh. Predictably, it's not an extra speaker. Stereo output is reserved for pricier Galaxies. There is, however, another mic up top. Stereo recording and in-call noise cancellation are ubiquitous now. The Galaxy A02s measures 164.2 x 75.9 x 9.1 mm, virtually the same footprint as the A12 and slightly thicker. It's then a little surprising that Samsung managed to make it some 9 grams lighter, but at 196 grams, it's not exactly lightweight. We'd say it's entirely in line with expectations for a 6.5-inch phone with a 5000 mAh battery. The Galaxy A02s has the same display as the A12 at first glance, a 6.5-inch PLS LCD, with 720 x 1600 px resolution in a 29 ratio. The Poco M3 and the Redmi 9 do have 1080p panels, though the Realme 7i stands at 720p, as do the Moto G8 Power and G9 Power. In our testing, however, the A02s return different results than what we got out of the A12. The contrast ratio was higher on the A02s, approaching an excellent 1800:1, compared to the 1350-ish-to-1 on the A12, thanks mostly to the deeper blacks. The maximum brightness of around 400 nits is virtually the same we measured on the A12 in manual mode, though that one had a small boost in adaptive mode, which we didn't see here on the A02s. Similarly to the A12, there are no color modes on the A02s. Color reproduction is different on the A02s, though, with an even stronger blue shift. The white point is some 14 units off the mark, and an average DE2000 of 7.3, when examining sRGB color swatches. Those numbers were A10 4.9 on the A12, respectively. There's a 5000 mAh battery inside the Galaxy A02s, same as in the A12 we had here a couple of weeks ago. We got more or less similar endurance out of the A02s too. We clock Wi-Fi web browsing at 1629H, while video playback in airplane mode worked out to 16 hours flat, both numbers ever so slightly longer than on the A12. The voice call result was 34 full hours on the Galaxy A02s, again a little better than what we got out on the A12. Standby battery draw turned out higher on the A02s, however, ultimately hurting the overall result. In any case, the Galaxy A02's endurance rating of 114H is still excellent. The Galaxy A02 ships with the 15-watt Samsung Adaptive Fast Charging Adapter, Quick Charge 2.0 compliant, a staple in the Samsung charging history that was replaced for flagships in recent years, but you can still find it bundled with the lesser models. With this included charger, we clocked a little over 2.5 hours from flat to full and 30% at the half-hour mark. Neither number is spectacular in the grand scheme of things, but the A02's charge is quicker than the A12, so another small win for the cheaper phone. Typically for the class, the Galaxy A02s has a single speaker located on the bottom of the handset. In our testing, it returned a slightly louder result than the A12, just enough to make it into the average bowl for loudness. It sounds a little better too, with noticeably more sparkle in the highs and nicer vocals, though bass remains non-existent. Similarly to the A12 we had over recently, the Galaxy A02's review unit is running Android 10 with Samsung's OneUI 2.5 on top. We can imagine these low-end Galaxies aren't top priority for new firmware development, but we are hopeful Android 11 is coming eventually. In any case, the A02s is on the list of phones that will be getting security updates for at least 4 years. OneUI has been very consistent from phone to phone and between releases, so there's not a whole lot missing on the A02s to begin with, v2.5 or otherwise. The lock screen is a familiar sight with a couple of shortcuts in the bottom corners and notification icons under a clock. This being an LCD-equipped phone, it doesn't support always-on display. There's no fingerprint sensor on the Galaxy A02s, not even a side-mounted one, like we saw on the A12. For unlocking authentication, you get the usual PIN, password pattern options, and a camera-based face unlock. It's not very secure, but it does score points for convenience. It worked quickly and reliably, even in very dim environments, and it requires at least one open eye to work. The UI fundamentals are the same as on virtually any other Samsung phone from the past couple of years. Gesture navigation is available, and you can choose that in the initial setup process or later on. A system-wide dark mode is par for the course too. What is missing on the A02s, similarly to other lower-end Galaxies, is edge panels. Otherwise, the software package is similar to other Samsung phones, with an in-house gallery app, file manager, and Samsung browser. An FM radio app is also included, though it does require plugging in headphones to serve as the antenna. Some phones like the Redmi 9 have a built-in FM antenna. The Galaxy A02s relies on the Snapdragon 450 chipset for doing math, a fairly unremarkable piece of silicon that's been in commercial devices since late 2017. It was a moderately big deal back then, offering a 14nm chip to the masses, though it's understandably a lot less impressive in 2021. The CPU inside the SD450 uses 8 Cortex-A53 cores, all of them capable of going up to 1.8 GHz. The A12's Helio P35 could crank 4 of its A53s up to 2.35 GHz, but that's not the case with the A02s and its Snapdragon. An Adreno 506 GPU is in charge of graphics. 2 RAM and storage configurations are available on the Galaxy A02's 3GB 32GB and 4GB 64GB, our review unit. Rather predictably, the A02s isn't competitive when it comes to raw processing power, with even the otherwise modest A12 scoring higher in the CPU-focused Geekbench and the compound Antutu alike. The A02s is about on par with the A12 in graphics tests, but that's not really all that great seeing how the A12 is towards the bottom of the charts. The Snapdragon 450 inside the Galaxy A02s is no miracle worker, and the benchmark results prove that. Competitors are available with vastly more powerful chips for A02's money or a small premium. Having said that, for some odd reason, the A02s was less prone to stutters and hiccups than the A12 we had before it. The Galaxy A02s has a triple camera on the back, consisting of a 13MP f2.2 primary module, a 2MP macro shooter, and another 2MP unit for depth detection. In this sense, it's a notable downgrade compared to the A12, which has an ultra-wide camera, and its primary unit uses a larger 48MP quad-Bayer sensor. Over on the front, the A02s gets a basic 5MP f2.2 selfie camera, here too Samsung taking a step back from the A12's 8MP unit. Modest as the hardware at hand may be, the camera app on the A02 is the same as on any other Samsung, well, minus a few modes, which is a good thing since it's straightforward and easy to use. The basics are as usual: swiping left and right will switch between available modes, and there's an option to rearrange, add or remove some of the modes from the viewfinder. Vertical swipes in either direction will switch between front and rear cameras. The familiar tree designation for zoom control is here too, even though the A02s only has one real camera. You get two trees for its native zoom level, but also a single tree selector for 2x digital zoom. Whether you tap on that or use the pinch gesture, additional preset zoom levels appear at 4x and 8x. The viewfinder has the standard set of icons with the settings cog wheel located in the upper left corner of the screen. The usual stuff like video resolution, grid lines, location data, etc. can be found in the menu. Much like on the A12, there is no scene optimizer on the A02s. Samsung's AI-powered scene-based processing enhancement feature is reserved for models higher up the lineup. There's a Pro mode, but it's the very basic implementation that only lets you pick ISO 100 to 800 and white balance by light temperature with icons for common light sources, as well as dial and exposure compensation, -2 EV to +2 EV in 0.1 EV increments. A metering mode selector also made the cut: center weighted, matrix and spot. There's no manual focusing option, sadly. The Galaxy A02s hovers around the €150 mark for the base 3GB 32GB version in continental Europe, or some £140 in the UK, while its M02's alter ego can be had for as little as INR 9,000 in India. That's clearly at the lower end of the price spectrum, but what else is there for the money? For one, the Galaxy A12. In most of Europe, that retails for some €10 above A02's money in 4GB 64GB trim, and, for all its flaws, it's the better phone. You'd be getting an ultra-wide cam, better low-light performance from the main cam, and a marginally quicker chipset. It's not quite so in the UK or India, for example, where the A12 is appreciably more expensive than its lesser stablemate, £170 INR 13,000, and the A02's M02s does make a case for itself by offering savings. The Redmi 9 is among the go-to options in the segment, and it's either selling for A02's money or it's cheaper, or, not officially available. You get more, too: an ultra-wide camera, a better close-up shooter, much more powerful chipset, and a 1080p display. Sounds like a better deal altogether, but a Redmi is no Galaxy. Neither is a Reem, but the company does have a few compelling offers in the price range. The Narzo 20A is one of the most affordable RAMs in India at A02's price, and it beats the Galaxy with a beefier chipset and 4K video recording capability. Meanwhile, in Europe, you can get your hands on a Reem 7i for a small premium over a Galaxy A02s. That is also a thoroughly more capable package with a superior camera system and chipset. A Moto G9 Play is a viable alternative to the Galaxy A02s too. The Moto's chipset is, once again, more powerful than the Galaxy's, and the camera experience is better on the G9 Play. Mind you, the Moto G9 Play goes by Moto G9 in India, and it's tangibly more expensive than the competing Galaxy M02s there. The Galaxy A02s is one of the least expensive Samsung phones you can buy, and as such, it offers good value to those looking for a budget entry into the brand. It's not a bad choice for a less demanding user either, and those will appreciate the long battery life, decent picture quality and overall look and feel. A more discerning buyer will likely be put off mostly by the dated low-performance chipset and lack of a fingerprint reader. The relatively low brightness display and missing camera features don't help either. Ultimately, if you're on a tight budget and looking to get the most out of it, perhaps brand loyalty shouldn't be on top of your priorities list, and you should look at competing offers from classic value-oriented makers. If you insist on a Galaxy, certain concessions are inevitable.